3 knocks. Always 3 knocks on the tent door, and when you finally muster the courage to unzip and look outside, there's absolutely nothing there. Just that heavy, unnatural silence that makes your heart race for no apparent reason. But wait, because what I'm about to reveal will make you rethink every camping trip you've ever taken. Somewhere in the depths of the Appalachian Mountains, there's something that shouldn't exist, something that watches, something that waits. And the most terrifying part? The authorities know about it, but they've chosen to keep you in the dark. Before we continue, I need you to like this now, because this story will keep you up tonight, and you'll want to share this burden with someone. Turn on notifications because what I've discovered in the last few months about these disappearances goes far beyond what any news outlet dared to publish. Last October, 2 people vanished completely in a remote area of the mountains. But here's the detail no one told you. Their tent was found perfectly intact, zipper closed from the inside, as if they had simply dematerialized. The sleeping bags were still warm when the rescue team arrived. Warm? Do you understand what that means? Whatever took them happened minutes, maybe seconds before the rescuers got there. No trace of blood, no signs of struggle, no screams reported by other campers in the area. Just silence. The kind of silence that seems to suck the air from your lungs. But there was something there. Something the investigators desperately tried to hide from the public. Around the campsite, the ground was compressed into a perfect 6-meter diameter circle. I'm not talking about a randomly trampled area. I'm talking about a geometrically precise circle, as if drawn with a giant compass. The earth was so compacted it seemed pressed by tons of concentrated weight. The undergrowth, bent outward in a perfect radial pattern, every blade of grass pointing away from the center, as if something massive had been there, standing, watching the tent for hours. The surrounding trees tell an even more disturbing story. Their bark was stripped off only on one side, always the side facing the circle, at a height of about 2.5 meters from the ground. The marks suggest something immense circled methodically around the campsite, brushing against the trunks as it moved. But here's what keeps me up at night. The pattern of the marks indicates clockwise movement, deliberate, almost ritualistic, as if the creature was performing some kind of vigil. 6 days. The search team stayed in the forest for 6 full days. They brought in the best tracking dogs in the region, animals with years of successful rescue experience, and all of them, without exception, stopped at the exact same point, halfway down a steep slope where the terrain turns into an impenetrable wall of rhododendrons. The dogs simply froze, their tails tucked between their legs, and began emitting that high-pitched whine dogs make when they sense mortal danger. The trainers had never seen anything like it. These animals are trained to ignore fear, to follow the scent, no matter what. But there, at that specific point, every one of them refused to take another step. Some even tried to pull their handlers back, desperate to get away from that place. On the 6th day, the forest rangers officially called off the operation. The official explanation? Torrential rains and dangerous terrain. But the volunteers who were there know the truth. They heard it. During the nights, when the mist descended and swallowed the entire forest, a sound echoed through the valleys. It wasn't wind. It wasn't a known animal. It was wood knocking against wood. 3 dry knocks coming from one side of the valley. Silence. Then a response from the opposite side. 3 identical knocks. The locals have a name for it: wood knocking. Experienced hunters use this technique to communicate across long distances in the dense forest. You bang a piece of wood against a tree, and your partner responds from the other side of the mountain. Simple, efficient, used for generations. But the old-timers in the region will tell you something that's not in any survival manual. You never ever respond to knocks you didn't initiate, because something else has learned to use that code. Something that's not human. An elderly man who runs a bait shop in Bryson City told me he's heard these knocks since he was a child. His father, who lived 87 years in these mountains, used to wake him in the middle of the night when the knocks started, place a hand over his mouth, and whisper a single instruction: don't respond. Never respond. If you respond, the old man told me, his eyes fixed on mine, the thing memorizes your sound, and when it memorizes, it can call you. It can mimic your voice. It can make your friends think you're lost in the forest screaming for help, when in reality you're safe in your tent. And when they go out looking for you, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The official report on the disappearance never mentioned any of this, but there's a line buried in the forest ranger's log from the first night of the search, a single note that someone tried to erase, but which can still be read if you know where to look. It just says, vocalization recorded at 1:14 a.m. Not coyote, not bear. Period. No attached audio file, no follow-up, no further investigation. Just that solitary phrase, like a secret someone wanted to document but didn't have the courage to explore. 3 weeks later, a local hiker found a completely destroyed trail camera 3 kilometers from that same elevation. The camera was flattened, as if something had stepped on it with tremendous force. The memory card had been removed, torn from the device, but the camera itself revealed something that made the hiker drop everything and run down the mountain. 5 deep grooves cut diagonally across the camera's metal casing, straight through the lens. They weren't superficial scratches. They were deep, precise parallel ruts, the kind of mark you make when dragging 5 fingers hard against a surface. But here's the detail that freezes the blood. The camera was mounted 2.5 meters high on a tree. Whatever destroyed it reached that height easily, used something like a hand, and had enough strength to crumple reinforced metal like aluminum foil. Officially, no one is claiming there's a monster in the Appalachian Mountains. No one in a position of authority will use that word. But there's an ancient Cherokee legend about a giant that walks the ridges when the mist gets thick. They called it Sulkalu, the slant-eyed giant. According to stories passed down through generations, this entity inhabited the remotest depths of the mountains, appearing only to those who disrespected the forest, who killed without need, who polluted the sacred waters. Some modern academics dismiss this as primitive mythology. Others, especially cryptozoologists, believe these legends are the origin of contemporary stories about the mountain Sasquatch. But what if it's not legend? What if it's memory? A hunter named Marcus, last name omitted at his family's request, supposedly had a close encounter near Deep Creek last winter. He was tracking a wounded deer when he heard heavy movement in the vegetation ahead. Initially, he assumed he'd startled a black bear, common in the region, but then he realized something impossible. The creature was climbing the steep slope on 2 legs, not stumbling like a bear occasionally does, walking. With long, confident strides, its arms swinging naturally like a man's. Marcus froze behind an oak tree, his rifle clutched to his chest, watching through the telescopic sight. The creature stopped. Slowly, deliberately, it turned its head in his direction. And that's when Marcus saw the eyes. He told me they weren't animal eyes. They didn't glow red like deer eyes reflecting light. They didn't have that instinctive emptiness of predators. They were conscious, intelligent, assessing. The creature studied him for maybe 5 seconds that felt like 5 hours. Then Marcus did what any armed person would do. He fired a warning shot into the air. The sound of the rifle should have echoed through the valleys, reverberating between the mountains as it always does. But it didn't. The sound was swallowed, muffled, as if the forest itself had absorbed the sound wave before it could travel. Marcus didn't wait to see what would happen next. He packed up his gear that same night and left the mountain before dawn, driving nonstop until he reached a friend's house 2 hours away. He swore he'd never go back. A month later, his truck was found parked on an abandoned logging road, 30 kilometers from where he'd hunted. The vehicle was locked. His keys were in the ignition. His hunting rifle, the same one he'd used for the warning shot, was still in the back seat, loaded. Marcus hasn't been seen since. Vanished completely, as if erased from existence. The authorities classify the case as probably unrelated to the other disappearances. After all, men disappear in the mountains all the time, right? The terrain is unforgiving. There are abandoned mines that can swallow a person whole, sudden sinkholes that open without warning, flash floods that turn quiet streams into deadly torrents in minutes. The Appalachian Mountains have a reputation for taking what they want, but the people who live near that specific elevation, those who still keep their windows open on summer nights, say something has changed in recent years. They say the forest doesn't sound like it should anymore. The crickets stopped chirping too early, hours before they should. The owls cut off their calls mid-flight as if something scared them. Even the wind feels different, heavier, as if moving around something solid you can't see. And if you listen closely enough, especially on nights when the mist descends and turns the forest into a gray labyrinth, you might hear it. A low, hollow, resonant sound. Wood knocking against wood. 3 knocks. Pause. Then another sequence. Closer this time, responding. Some wildlife experts try to explain it as a mating call from some unknown species. Others suggest it's territorial behavior, a creature marking its domain. But the old man from the bait shop, The one who grew up hearing these ghostly knocks has a different interpretation. He says it's not a call, it's a warning. And whatever is making those knocks, it's not warning you. It's warning everything else in the forest that you're there. The Appalachian Mountains aren't just silent at night. They're too silent. You don't notice it right away. It takes a few minutes for your brain to register that something's wrong. The air gets thick, almost viscous, and the mist starts creeping up from the valleys like white fingers extending up the slope. Every sound is muffled, swallowed by the fog. The locals call it the silencing. Some say it's just how the haze works, a matter of basic atmospheric physics. Others claim it's when the mountain listens, when it pays attention. About a week after those two campers disappeared, another report came in to the authorities. This time, from a retired teacher who was hiking alone near Klingman's Dome. She reported hearing low voices floating through the mist, speaking in short, fragmented patterns. Initially, she assumed it was just another group of hikers ahead on the trail, but when she shouted a friendly greeting, the voices stopped abruptly. Total silence for maybe 10 seconds. Then one of the voices repeated her name, her full name, pronounced perfectly. She can't explain how that's possible. She hadn't told anyone she'd be hiking that day, didn't post on social media, didn't mention it to neighbors, didn't leave a note. It was a last-minute decision, a solo walk to clear her mind. When she turned to head back toward the parking lot, she realized something terrifying. She was walking in circles. Her compass spun slowly, never settling on any direction. The needle just rotated and rotated, as if magnetic north had ceased to exist. She walked for hours, recognizing the same trees, the same rock formations, passing the same landmarks repeatedly. Her car was just 1.5 miles away when she started the hike. It took 4 hours to find the road again. The officials attributed everything to disorientation, altitude, dehydration, panic, the usual list of convenient explanations. But that same night, a ranger station recorded a power fluctuation that knocked out all communications for 30 minutes. The radio log shows static spikes exactly at the same time she reported hearing the voices. Supposedly, when the system rebooted, there was a message left in the queue, a low frequency, a hum that rose in pitch every 8 seconds. It wasn't a recognizable human voice, but some technicians who analyzed the recording swore they could hear breathing between the pulses. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The recording was never released publicly, but a former park employee admitted confidentially that he keeps a copy locked in a drawer at home. He doesn't play it anymore. Says that after listening to it 3 times, he started having nightmares. Always the same. He's alone in the forest. The mist is rising, and something is breathing in sync with his own breath. When he speeds up, the breathing speeds up. When he holds his breath, the breathing stops. And when he finally exhales, the breathing is right behind his ear. Some say the mist in the Appalachian Mountains isn't natural. The oldest residents believe it's older than the national park itself, something that coils up the slopes when the ridgewalker moves. Hunters who stayed in the forest too late tell stories about hearing knocks echoing through the valley, followed by soft breathing just outside the campfire's light circle. They say if you light a second fire to increase the illumination, it goes out on its own. If you whisper, something whispers back. A family that lived near an old mining road on the outskirts of Gatlinburg reported hearing slow knocks on their porch every night around 3 a.m. 3 knocks, always 3, then absolute silence. When they finally mustered the courage to check, they found muddy footprints leading up to the steps. They weren't boots. They weren't animal paws. They were bare feet, wider than a shovel, almost human but elongated as if belonging to something that was neither man nor beast. The family moved out in less than a month. Left the house, the furniture, everything, just fled. In one of the small mountain towns, a pastor who had lived there his whole life told a visitor that he once saw what made the mist move that way. Said it was tall enough to brush the lowest tree branches, its arms dangling to its knees, its head turned toward the sunrise as if it hated the light. He never called it Sasquatch. He said it was the old thing, the one that came before the trees, before the Cherokee, before people forgot the sound of the first language. When the visitor asked what he meant, the pastor just said, "Leave the mountain before nightfall. It can hear your heart beating if you're afraid. And then you'll understand why no one says its name above a whisper. Because in the great Appalachian Mountains, the silence isn't empty. It's listening. And now, after watching this video, it's listening to you."